Welcome to the Aviation Pros Podcast, the go-to platform for professionals in the aviation industry. Powered by AviationPros.com, the leading source for comprehensive news, insights, and data on airport operations. Whether you're focused on airport management, improvement programs, ground handling, equipment, MRO, or FBO operations, we've got you covered with the expertise and resources you need to stay ahead. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Aviation Pros Podcast. I'm Joe Petrie, Editor-in-Chief of Airport Business. Few areas of the airport passenger experience have evolved more than concessions and retail. Airports are focused on improving their offerings to travelers while building a sense of place and embracing technology. This evolution comes with the new generation of travelers who are consuming in a new manner different from the past. As one of the major concessionaires in North America, Delaware North is focused on keeping up with these trends. I recently got to speak with Delaware North COO Robert Thormeier about these trends, how he sees the airport concession space continuing to evolve, and with the advent of technology, how the opportunities are going to change. All right, Robert. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today. There's a lot going on in airports right now, especially when it comes to the concessions and how people are starting to travel again post-pandemic and the boom we've seen. My first question is for you, with that rebound that we've seen, how has Delaware North adapted its concession strategy to meet the surge in passenger demand while maintaining a high level of service?
Yeah, that's a great question. With the demand picking up after the pandemic, we had to first be able to get the staff back into the airports. We had to get everyone there and get ourselves open and ready to operate. What we've noticed is that the guest is looking for a quicker, faster transaction. And you also have the guest looking for a more premium experience. So we're trying to combine both of them. And to get to that level, we're really focused on the convenience and the quick service areas of the food service within the airport, where someone come in real quick, grab a bag of chips, a bottle of water, and go, or that they can go to the convenience stores and grab something ready-made and on their way. The other part of it is adding technology and making sure that we have the technology that enhances the guest experience while also speeding up the time of the transaction so that they can get to where they're going. As we've seen more and more passengers come through, long lines are something that we want to avoid throughout our overall business. Then, as I said, on the fine dining side, you're seeing guests looking for a more premium experience. And so the items that we're offering, as we start to build our menus and working with our brand partners, we look to create a menu that's a little bit more upscale, a little bit more premium, and gives them a little bit more than what they were anticipating when they got to the airport.
So one of the things with air travel and all travel for that matter post-pandemic is that we saw, little changes here and there and just kind of how people have adapted or just the habits they've taken a part of whenever it is they're going to where they need to go. I'm curious to know, what has changed for the traveler habits post-pandemic from your world? Do you have to rethink the experience inside the terminal?
Yes, we have had to do that. We're seeing a couple of things. One, you're seeing the customer who has the elevated expectation to be in a club. And so we're seeing the proliferation of clubs within the airports taking away potential patrons that we have. So that's where, when we speak to having a little bit more of a premium offering or looking at the way we design spaces to be more accommodating, more comfortable, more inviting for a business passenger, we're looking at that. The other item that has been on our mind, and we've seen a lot of, is that the dwell time within the airports has actually gone down. So as the airports become more efficient with moving people through the baggage, the check-in, the security, parking, and getting to the airports, taking an Uber or a Lyft, they're spending less time in the airport. And so we have to make sure that our offerings are quick, fast, efficient, and get them to where they are. So I was actually speaking to one of our operators earlier today who's advertising a meal, hamburger, fries, and a Coke within 10 minutes at one of his quick service restaurants, just to let the patrons know that we have these items. We're there. We can be that quick purchase. So we've really had to take the time and think about the menus, think about the size of them, and think about how quickly we can execute and what's the right way. And that's where technology, menu planning, menu engineering all comes in together so that we can create that experience. So that's been a real hot topic for us as of late.
Now, one of the growing trends even before the pandemic was the incorporation of local flavors, trying to bring the community inside the terminal and just bring that little bit of local flair that was coming into it. Is that still a growing trend we see, or is we seeing a shift in the way of what travelers are asking for in terms of the offering?
I would say it's still growing, but it depends on where it's at. I think you see a lot more of the regional airports who want people to understand that area and get a feel for their city and their region of the country are really pushing heavy towards the local, but you still have to have those national brands. And in particular at the hub airports, you see a lot of that where people are coming in from across the country and they want something that's a known commodity to them. And beyond just being the known commodity, they know it from being in the street that it might be fast, friendly service and that's what they're used to. So they go towards that. So yes, you're seeing more of that local come in to give these airports a sense of place within their community, but you still have to maintain that balance with the national brands that everyone's comfortable with so that you can make sure you give them the experience they're looking for.
And same with the healthier food options. Wellness focused has always been an amenity in the last couple of years that people have really looked for when they're traveling. Is this still a demand that we're seeing, and how is Delaware North responding to it?
It is still a demand. I would say it's growing. What you're seeing now is a lot of people moving towards the high protein diets and being focused on that. So a lot of our menus, our grab and go, our cold sandwiches, our cold offerings are very high in protein. And so you're seeing a move towards that. I think healthy options are going to always be there. I think you're seeing a transition to more of that. I think throughout the airports in particular where we're operating, it's becoming a larger percentage of our sales. And so we're spending more time on that type of menu engineering to make sure we get the right items at the right price that people are looking for. And so you're seeing a big change there overall. And, when you look at a grab and go market or a convenience location, you're seeing more and more shelf space, both the dry goods and the coolers being taken up by these higher protein snacks and items along that line, which fall in that healthy category. So you're definitely seeing a move towards that. And I think it'll continue to grow over the next few years.
And you had mentioned before about technology, and that's something that Delaware North has embraced. I know mobile ordering, the self-checkout kiosks, these are all been things that have been growing in recently and are kind of transforming the passenger experience. Tell me a little bit of how Delaware North is leveraging technology to streamline operations and even try and find different ways to enhance that convenience for travelers.
Yeah, Delaware North looks out. We work across many different segments of the hospitality business, whether it's the national parks, we are in gaming, we have some regional facilities, and we're in sports. And so we get to look at the customers through a lot of different lenses and see how that they interact with technology. And a lot of these places that we're operating in a confined time space, similar to what you have in an airport where you have your dwell time before your flight or after flight. And we're taking that information, we're bringing it to the airports to guide what we're looking at. So we're taking that data of what are they looking for? So if we're in a convenience retail location, we're seeing that self-checkout is more the route that they want to go towards. And we're also seeing that at a quick service or a fast food kind of restaurant, they're looking for self-ordering. So making sure that we're taking these best practices from across our other subsidiaries and bringing them to the airports. And then we're using our brands and concepts team and our data analytics team to look at the market, look at the street side restaurants and how they're interacting with technology and how the customer is interacting before they get to the airport. And we're bringing all that to bear. And so throughout our portfolio, we've just installed well over 300 different self-order kiosks. We're introducing self-checkout at all of our retail locations, and we're really pushing for this. And it's an iterative process. So we're in phase 1, we'll be in phase 2 in a couple of years, and it'll keep going. So as the customer's technology demands change, we'll be changing with them and try and stay on the forefront of that.
With such a dynamic change in retail and dining inside the airport, and not just the changes that you highlighted before and some of the different competitions you're seeing, are there any kind of new or unconventional revenue streams that the company is exploring that might not have been something that was on the radar before?
For us, I think we're always evolving and trying to find what's next. We're testing a lot of different things right now. A big item for us is the frictionless technology and creating 24-hour markets where we have using masking technology and items along that line, so that we can give customers an experience, throughout the entire day. The other thing we're really starting to look at is how the phone can be the device of transaction across everything. So instead of having a cash register, how can everything be completed on your phone? It's always with the guest. They always have it in their pocket or in their hand. So how can we utilize that? So we're looking at how we can use apps to do self-order and self-checkout, how we can order ahead and pay. We're looking at different ways we can integrate with the airport, and we'd like to get with the airline, their apps also, so that we can really move the phone to the forefront and how that can change the transaction, the overall experience within an airport for us.
And that embrace of technology and things like apps, that gives you a lot more access to things like just data and customer insights. How's the company looking to use this to try and personalize the passenger experience, whether it be through promotions or even curated retail and dining options?
Yeah, that's a good point. We have a brands, not brands and concepts, but we have a data analytics department, and we have a customer insights department that takes all this information, brings it together, and tells us what the passengers are looking for, what the guests are looking for. And so as we try and curate it, we're still at the beginning stages of digging through all the data and testing and trying and, failing fast if it's not working. So what we'd like to do is get to, not necessarily geofencing, but to where we understand, if we're using the phone, that every time you go to this particular restaurant at this particular airport, you're looking to order this, so it pops up on your screen as a push notification. We're looking to understand what our guests are, how they're transacting and where they're transacting, and seeing how we can push that forward and make it simpler for them overall. But our customer insights team is really using the data. So it's kind of like a three-pronged approach, right? The data goes in the customer insights, and that is then fueling what we can do on the operations side. So it's a lot of different things that we can try, a lot of things we're throwing at the wall in the home office and saying, should we try this? Should we try that? And it's been a fun process, but there's a lot we can learn, a lot we can take from it.
In that same vein, passenger demographics and preference continue to evolve. So how are you working to stay ahead of these trends and ensure your offerings remain relevant and appealing to the traveling public?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where our brands and concepts team has to be on the road. They have to be in the street. They have to use the data that's out there. And we have to be looking at that. It's not just what's transacting in the airport, but it's what is transacting in that marketplace. Where are people looking to shop? What is their experience? As I said earlier, we're looking at a customer who's looking for something quick, fast, and convenient. Then you have the other customer who's looking for a little bit more of a premium experience, which is currently being defined by the club space. And so how can we create new concepts that are quick, fast, efficient, but comfortable, that the business customer who's looking for a more premium experience, or that guest who's looking for a more premium experience, can come and sit in our area. And so as we're looking to design items and design locations, we're really taking that data, and our brands team is taking the lead as to, hey, here's what's going on in market, here's the trends, and then we apply that across our different strategic filters within the airport to make sure that we create the right environment for our guests that are coming through.
In the quick order and the time-pressed traveler, that's led to a rise in pre-ordering and delivery services in airports as that's continued to grow. How's your company integrating into these services and operation to cater to the time-pressed traveler?
Yep, that's exactly it. So, one of the things I tell everybody is, if you put a Starbucks in, you're getting their app, and they're great with their app. They know how to transact with it. So that guy or gal who's on the airplane, they can order their coffee, and it'll be ready for them when they get off the airplane, and they can head out security. So we have to embrace it. And what we're looking to do is, we have a couple of apps, and we use the Grab app at a couple of locations with all our outlets in it that you can order from, which is great, but really need to find something that the customer is used to interacting with, which is why I mentioned earlier, we're trying to get with airlines, get with airports, understanding their app. How can the food service be integrated into that so that the guest understands it, they're used to interacting with that app, and they can be in there, and it's not just another app they have to add every time they go to an airport. So we're trying to be in front of it. We're using multiple different streams, but I think that's one that's going to be, I don't want to say a challenge, but it's going to be something that grows and is continuing to evolve over the next 4 to 5 years.
And e-commerce has even come into the airport conversation in recent years. That used to be something that was never associated between the two. I'm kind of curious how Delaware North is kind of balancing the need for physical retail spaces with this growing demand for digital shopping in airports.
Mm-hmm. Well, what we're seeing is, in some airports, they're looking for less retail, because you can order it from your phone. You can take it with you, and that's how a lot of people are transacting. So what we're trying to offer is an experience that's curated towards the guest, that's curated towards that region, that airport, that, hey, I want to have this, I want to have it now. And then offering, hey, if you don't want to buy it now, you at least saw it, you can offer it, or you can buy it on your phone when you leave. So having web presence is important, but as guests go towards that, we're still somewhat a brick and mortar within the airports. We need to make sure that we create that curated experience that they'll want to shop there. But also, if they don't want to get it at that point, they have the ability to see a website, to go on and purchase it. So that's a very, very evolving piece of the business, and I think you're going to see a lot of change over the next 3 to 4 years with how retail and airports transacts.
And what's been really interesting in recent years, even before the pandemic, was the whole transformation of an airport into a destination in themselves and how that has come to America. And like you mentioned before, I mean, you have things like lounges, spas, entertainment that are all starting to pop up inside these airports. How is your company looking to try and contribute to this trend of building that experience inside the airport?
Glad you mentioned that. One of the things we're always looking for is the experience. And as a hospitality company that goes across multiple different experiences, right? And we got sports, gaming, national parks. We're trying to bring the best of each one of those to the airports. And in the past, people used to see an airport as, hey, I used to have to go there to transact, to go to my destination. Now you see people in creating that experience that is a destination. So we're looking at how can we redesign restaurants that create more of a lounge experience, that are comfortable, that have all the right amenities for a guest that's going to want to sit there for a 2 or 3 hour layover, be able to do their calls, but also provide the fast service. We're looking at what are the best practices in concepts and in localities where we already operate in some of our other divisions, and bringing that into the airports and seeing what we can do that's innovative and different. So it's a very evolving process for us, but I would say it's one where we're looking at best practices across all Delaware North and seeing how we can take them and bring them over to the airports to create a unique experience that we think is one of a kind for our business.
Piggybacking off of that, are there any innovative approaches or pilot programs the company is currently testing to redefine the airport experience you can mention?
Right now, I think we're really big into figuring out the frictionless and figuring out how you can get customers to want to engage in the frictionless experience. Amazon has been around a few years. iFi is coming on. We're seeing more and more of this. So we're trying to figure that out, and we're spending a lot of time with camera technology, a lot of time with different ways to where the guests can transact and experience everything on their own. And then we're working across subsidiaries with our restaurant group, the Patina Restaurant Group, on how we can design different spaces and how we can take and work with the different brands, both local and national, to create a more inviting, different experience that still represents the brand the right way. So there's a lot in our test lab in regards to how we can elevate the experience while still protecting the integrity of brand. So I spend a lot of time with the Patina Restaurant Group in menu design and experience design. So I think those are probably 2 spaces that we're really working on hard right now.
Mentioning that with the concession balance and looking at what you have to offer, there is that balance of trying to keep like a local flair, but then also the brand offerings that everyone knows within the facility that they're going to be looking for when they go into the airport, and of all sizes, that they can find that mix. Mm-hmm. So tell me, like, how, as the concessionaire, are you trying to find the balance for the need for that consistency and what is desired from these different airports?
It's having an open dialogue with the airports from the time the RFP is released and kind of what they're looking for, to also understanding our analytics that we can do inside and outside the airports, and taking that to develop your program. As I mentioned earlier, we have our brands and concepts team, and they're constantly in markets where we're operating. They're constantly scrubbing the internet for data to see what is the traveler preference, how are they changing, and what are they looking for. And we try and take that information, be proactive with our clients, have the conversations with them and say, hey, this is where we see it going. How can we move towards there? And how can we as partners be able to do this? So for us to stay on top of it, it's about constantly understanding the data that's coming in and staying in markets, and not just in the airport in market, but actually what's going on in Atlanta, what's going on in Chicago, how's that food scene going on, and how can we bring that to life while we still have the right balance of the national and local within that particular airport.
And let's talk about that right balance. I mean, how are you looking at a measure of success when it comes to your concession program? Is it straight bottom line, or what kind of KPIs or metrics are you looking at to consider something successful?
We look at all the financial ones, revenue per enplanement. We're looking at the profitability across. We're looking at revenue by concept, by transaction basket. But the one that we're focused on is our NPS score. We want to know how we're doing and how we're performing for the guests. And so every time you transact with us, you get your receipt. We have a QR code at the bottom of the receipt so you can tell us how we're doing. And that's our big metric that we're looking at right now. If we have the right program, and we have the right service with the right items in the right place, the hospitality should be there, so our score should grow or stay at a very high level. And so we pay a lot of attention to that. And where we see it not ticking up or possibly ticking down, we're making sure we get with those operators, get in that market and understand what's going on, and working to quickly fix the issues where we can. But NPS score right now that's our main metric that we're using to judge how well we're doing, if our program's meeting the needs of the guests.
And we're in a really unique time in history for North American airports that we've seen so much investment on terminals and facilities in the last 5 years specifically as well, where we see that airports are trying to up their game as far as what they have, not just offering for their passengers, but their facilities as well. Mm-hmm. What role does design and layout play in creating a seamless and enjoyable concession experience for travelers?
I think it's critical. I spent 25 years, well, not 25 years, just over 20 years in the sports side of it, and I was involved in a lot of build outs of stadiums and arenas. And what I see is, as terminals are being built, the earlier you can get the concessionaire or the hospitality provider on site, the more seamless, the more integrated the experience can be. And so in the past, where they designed the terminal and said, here's the box that the hospitality partner can operate in, we're seeing a change to where they're trying to be early, get some partners on, get a consultant on, so that you can design the whole experience from the gate all the way back to baggage claim, from the time they're at TSA all the way through the terminal. So that all being seamless and brought together as one thing. So I think that's a big change, and I think that collaboration is needed, and you're going to see that continue to move forward. So that, like, as you mentioned, creating destinations, creating places that have a sense of purpose for the airport. The more and more of that comes around, the more the collaboration between the hospitality or concessionaire provider in the airport's going to be important. So what you're seeing is where they're together earlier, in that the concessionaire or hospitality provider has a seat at the table much earlier than they would in the past. So I think that's a key.
My last question for you today. We've seen a lot of innovation. We see technology taking plant now. We see new terminals going up with new spaces for concessionaires like yourself, and where you're able to have the offerings. Looking ahead over the next 5 to 10 years, what do you see as the biggest challenges and opportunities for the airport concession world?
I think the challenge is always going to be the cost of doing business. I think labor is going to be a challenge, so we have to look at different technologies to meet that and to meet the customer where they want to be met and how they want to transact. Opportunities, I think, again, are kind of similar. It's in the offerings. It's in having a seat at the table for the concessionaire early on in the process to help develop the hospitality program for that whole terminal as it's being redesigned or as it's opening. I think that's a big opportunity for us as we go forward, and that's only going to enhance the guest experience too. So I think that's probably the biggest opportunity I see.
Robert, it was a pleasure speaking with you today, and really excited to see such changes come into the industry and how we're traveling and what we're being offered. And I can't wait to see what Delaware North has down the future for us.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time today, Joe. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Aviation Pros podcast. Stay ahead in airport operations and leadership by subscribing to our Airport Business Daily Newsletter, your go-to source for the latest industry insights. And don't forget to explore even more at AviationPros.com, the home of exclusive content for aviation professionals like you. I'm Joe Petrie. We'll catch you next time.